So I gave the students this challenge. I said, here's a parabola, and it's got a vertex of 5, 1. Can you write the equation for it? Now, they knew to start with y equals, and I think somebody in here is probably going to have it. Raise your hand if you think you have the equation for it in vertex form. Mr. A. You.
X minus 5 squared plus 1.
X minus 5 squared plus 1. You are correct. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Sweet. Now, how could you tell that there was no stretch factor? Well, I would have had to tell you something to make there be a stretch factor there, right? You would have had to know, like, oh, I went over 1 and up 1. Now, look, if I actually look at my graph I did on the board here, it goes over 1 and up 1. So therefore, there is no stretch factor. Nothing to worry about. That was the right equation. Now, here's the way harder, but like really not when you figure out what the question is. Can you tell me the equation in this form? It's called standard form. It's not that, but what's the equation that's in standard form for this? Now, what would be really sad, but like a good try, would be some kid going, oh, I'm just going to square this, and so it's x squared minus 25 plus 1. No, something went tragically wrong there. That's not it. Okay, talk to that kid next to you and see what you think that answer is. Okay, here's what you should have done. This is really x minus 5, and another x minus 5, and then a plus 1. And then if I'm going to speed it up and just get right to the answer, x squared minus 10x, that's the two outside and inside together, plus 25 plus 1 more, 26. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Awesome. Now, the hardest kind. Can you factor it? I'm going to save you some time and some pain. No, this one doesn't factor. You know how I know it doesn't factor? Because look at it. Does it have any x-intercepts? No. Then it's not going to be in factored form. Because, see, factored form would have given you the x-intercepts. This doesn't have any. Now, if the graph would have been like this, then we would have been able to factor it, and we would have found those two x-intercepts. In fact, let's do one like that. So here's a graph. I'll try to be more accurate than average. And let's put 1 dot here, 1 dot here. That's going to be at 2 and 4. And those are the x-intercepts. I'll rewrite them in white. 2 and 4. So can you write the factored form now? I can, but I have one question. That's what you should be able to do too. You should be able to write the factored form and then be like, but. All right, give it your best shot on that. And when your partner is done, talk to them about it. Partner meaning the person across from you. Okay, did you say y equals x minus 2 and x minus 4? But what was the question? Like, something's wrong with this. I don't know if I figured it out. What?
It's factored form.
That's what I wanted, though. It's factored form. That's what I wanted. The problem is there's something you don't know, and you're not asking me this important question. From right here, does it look like it went over 1 and up 1?
No,
then it's been stretched and I didn't tell you by how much. So that's the thing you should have asked me is, that's been stretched. Because see, the vertex should have been right there. If the vertex was right there, then do you get how it would have been over 1 and up 1 and it would all been fine? But it wasn't there. So there was a stretch factor right here and we didn't know what it was. Okay, all right. So one more time. Let's start with factored form this time. Now try to get me general form. And if you're really amazing, try to get me vertex form. Somebody in here, if I offered like a large cash reward, would be able to figure out vertex form. You can do it. I haven't taught you how, but you could. But everybody in here should be able to get me one other form of this. All right, talk to the kid next to you about what should you do? What should you do? Talk to that kid. If you don't know, ask somebody else. All right, the secret here is you were supposed to multiply it all the way out. And x times x is x squared. The outside and the inside make -3 and another -1 makes -4x. And then the last is this times this, +3. Look at that. I know A, B, and C. And some kids are like, but there is no A. No, there's an A. What's the A that you don't see right there? It's a 1. Good. All right, so A is 1, B is -4, and C is 3. And that way, I want to see, was there anybody who figured out how to write this in vertex form? Okay, here, if you got it, say it. I'd love to be impressed. All right, then, here's, oh, go ahead.
Is it x minus 2 squared plus 1?
So close. So close. Yes?
-1?
Yes. You pretty much had it, Ethan. So nice job. And you were the first person to be willing to say. Now, how did you get it, Ethan?
I just,
You
I
were-
know there's an x squared from the general.
That's true. There had to be an x squared because it's a parabola. Okay, good.
And then 4x is 2 times 2. And then you just figure out what their minus is.
Oh, interesting. I didn't think of it that way. Did anybody else do it a different way that is easier to explain? Yes.
I just kind of figured because 4x, you have to, 2 squared is 4x. And the form, I remembered the Google or the school G from yesterday.
Okay. All right. Here's my way, and you tell me if this would have helped you. That means it its x-intercept is 1. That means its other x-intercept is 3. It's right side up, so it's a U shape, right? And did it have any stretch factor? Then couldn't I figure out that it would have to be that? See what I mean? There's the vertex. I missed it kind of like when I graphed it. But do you get it would have to touch there? Because why? Because you're supposed to go over and up. And if I go over 1 and up 1, that's where I am. So I could figure out that that would be the vertex. And if that's the vertex, it's at 2, -1. And then as soon as I know that, I can put it into this form right there. So basically, make a sketch of it. This is one of the best tips for the ACT, is if they don't give you a sketch, make a sketch. Because if you would have made a sketch of this, and you'd have been like, well, how am I supposed to sketch that? Well, yeah, those are the x-intercepts. you'd have been able to sketch it, and then finding the vertex becomes easy. I'm not saying that was an easy question. Only one kid kind of got it right, and then somebody else corrected it. Okay, so that was hard. But do you get, once you see the picture, it's not that hard? All right. All right, let's do another one. This time, I'm going to give you those 2 points as its x-intercepts. And that as its vertex. Can you tell me the equation in all 3 forms? Start with anything you want. You want to start with vertex form? Make it vertex form. You want to start with factored form? Make it factored. Now, if your brain can't like complete the picture, I will help you. Good question. These are called quadratics. That's what this whole chapter is about, is getting good at all 3 ways to write a quadratic equation. One way is where you use the vertex form. One way is where you factor it, and you get the x-intercepts from that. And the last way is general form, which generally you just multiply one of the other ones out. So nobody looks at this and says, oh yeah, that's negative 2x squared plus 3x plus 1. 0 people would do that. Okay, but you can look at this and say, oh, x-intercepts. I can do factored form in my head. I can do vertex form in my head. Easy. But that general form, you never get that in your head easy. You just multiply one of the other ones out. All right. Talk to the kid next to you about at least what one of them is. Maybe vertex form? What did you get for vertex form? Talk to him.
I got this, I got
X minus 5.
I get them.
What'd you get? Because it's the vertex.
All right, here's what I hope you did. I personally would have figured out that that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, comma 1. And I would have gone, I think vertex form is easiest. I would have gone x minus 5 squared plus 1. And then who all remembered it was upside down and needs a negative in front? Who caught that? Ah, I think a lot of you forgot that, didn't you? It's upside down. There should be a negative. Okay. Now I know that means that if you did multiply this all out, you forgot to put a negative on everything. That negative in the front there would put a negative on everything. So I'm going to jump to the ending. It would have been x minus 5 and x minus 5 and then a negative and then a plus 1. And I'm going to get y equals negative x squared. And it would have been minus 10x, but this negative turns into plus 10x. And then it would have been positive 25, but now it'll be negative 25 because of this. So it'll be negative 25 plus 1 makes negative 24. There's two of my forms. General form, and this one is called vertex form. And then what's the last one? Factored form. Look at this again and write me factored form, 2 parentheses. Has this one been stretched? No, but it's been flipped. Mr. Gray, tell me one of these parentheses based on this point right here.
X minus 4,
Correct. And the other one?
X minus 6.
Yup. And then it's right except for one thing. Final answer?
Negative.
Yes, it needs a negative right there. There's your final answer. Now that's factored form. Those are the 3 major forms. Factored form. Could I have multiplied this one out? Yeah. This one multiplied all the way out. By the way, that 6 kind of got weird looking. I'm going to make it white. That would have multiplied all the way out and given you the same exact general form. There's a lot of algebra in this class. Algebra meaning like multiplying stuff out. You know, like, hey, we're in algebra 2 and you're in honors. So yeah, you're going to have like a negative to multiply through. In our general class, we probably wouldn't have had the negative. It wouldn't have been upside down because that would have been a little too much for them. But you're in honors, so we'd expect you to remember that negative and multiply it through. Okay. So what else do you have to know? Well, that's pretty much it. But what we're doing for the rest of the hour is we're going to take first 20 live and in person so that I can know exactly how good you are at that for conferences. All right, so before we start that, I want to see, do you remember, here's an easy one off of there. And they would say, what are the 2 solutions? Well, one of them just jumps right out at me. The other one's a little harder, but there's 2 solutions to that. This is one of the algebra things you're supposed to know for this one. And here's another one. This is a completely different problem. Do you know how to factor? Because if you can factor it, you should. And then simplify that red one. So there's 2 questions. This one was solve. This one's simplify. And usually if you can factor it, you should. This is not the test. Ask the kid next to you how to do it. It's totally fine. In a minute, it'll be a test, and then I want to know, do you know your algebra basics yet? We will find out.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
While you're playing drive shadow.
How do you do the second one?
Second one, you factor up the 3.
So you factor up this? So if you
No, you would factor out that 3
What?
because it's being multiplied to the side, so you can factor it out.
Wait, so what would the second one be like? Oh, yeah, plus or minus 3 square root of this? One plus 1 is 7.
factor all the,
Wait, 1?
read
Plus or
this.
minus?
Number 2, I like my calculator, but also something I like.
It would turn into this by factoring out the 3, and
factor
then you just think about 3's.
Okay, no, there's a 6 on the other side. Yeah. Just think of it as 3 over 6 and 3 over 6. You factor out both of 6 over 6.
That's an easy way to.
Oh, I get it.
Well, I factored 3.
I get it.
I'm confused.
I just,
Yeah, it's like. So then where did the other three go? You also simplify that.
So then it's just square root.
And then
So it's
one
one
cancels
plus or
out.
minus the square root of 7 over 2. So if
Four
there
is
is no
no
factor,
factor.
3 and the other one. Yeah.
4 is negative of 1.
All right, I'm hearing lots of good chatter about how to do these. This first one, you're supposed to be able to just look at it and say, oh, if I stuck in a 4, it would equal 0. So that's one of the answers, x equals 4. Raise your hand if you knew that 4 was an answer. Good. This one, it's a little trickier, so I'd just go off to the side and write 2x plus 1 needs to equal 0, and then solve it. And you end up with negative 1/2. Who had negative 1/2? Awesome. Because you minus 1 from both sides and then divide by 2. Okay, negative 1/2. This one, you need to factor it. The 3 comes out, and then you have 1 plus and minus root 7. And then there's a 6 on the bottom, but couldn't that be 3 times 2? And then look, the 3's cancel. So there's your answer. 1 plus and minus root 7 over 2. Who would have had that one right? Awesome. And remember on the Schoology quiz, they ask you for 3 parts. They say, what's here, and what's here. And that you have to type SQRT because there's no square root symbol on the keyboard. So square root of 7. All right. That little quiz is to be started right now. And it should only take you, if you're good at this, if you're really good at this, it should take you 8.5 minutes. In this same room 2 years ago, a kid did it in 4 minutes and 20 seconds, and they got a perfect paper. Okay? So don't tell me, I couldn't finish in 20 minutes. Well, if that's the case, it's because you don't know algebra. Sorry, but that's true. If it can be done in 4.5 minutes, and if you're good at it, you can do it in 8 minutes, then don't tell me 20 minutes isn't enough time. All right, so here comes some scratch paper. You do not have to use it, but I'm going to throw a little piece of scratch paper out. I think it'd be easier to use that, and it's a Schoology quiz. Please begin now. If you don't use it, it's fine. Just we'll have a stack. You can put it back on if you don't use it. I have extra pencils right here. I'm putting them in this cup right here. Does anybody know they're not going to use their paper? If so, anybody else? Thank you. I know you know, Algebra 1 is critical to doing well in Algebra 2, so do your best. And that's all I got for the video for today.